What's up everybody, blessed be. My name is Manon and you are watching Witch in the Working, where we will be discussing all things witchy in and around, throughout and about, above, below, and beyond. Please visit me on my other platforms as well, including Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon, all linked down in the description below. The full script of this video and most of the others is available on my Patreon account for downloaders desired to build your own Witch in the Working Book of Shadows. Do you need help with a spell or fancy a tarot reading? Shoot on over to my store, Bewitching and Bizarre, linked down in the description below, for your personalized working and or reading. Understanding what Wicca truly is can be a game changer for those curious about this nature-centered spiritual path. Wicca is often misunderstood, and unfortunately these misconceptions can lead to unnecessary fear or judgment. By taking the time to learn about Wiccan's core beliefs, practices, and its focus on personal growth and harmony with the earth, you gain a clearer picture of what it really means to walk this path. It's not about spells and magic wands as often portrayed in movies, but rather about living in balance with nature, honoring the cycles of life, and practicing kindness and respect towards others. Addressing the common misconceptions is important because misinformation can easily turn into prejudice. For example, some might label Wicca as a cult or something sinister simply because they don't understand it. I was recently called a cult leader because of these videos that I make. In reality, Wicca encourages freedom of thought, personal responsibility, and a deep connection with the natural world. By clearing up these misunderstandings, we create a more open-minded and accepting space where people can explore their spirituality without fear or judgment. In a world full of diverse beliefs, understanding and respect go a long way in bringing us closer together. Is Wicca a cult? Let's find out. Roll intro. Welcome back everyone. When we talk about a cult, it's a term that often carries a lot of weight and can stir up strong emotions. But what exactly is a cult, and why does it have such a negative reputation? In simple terms, a cult is a group or movement that revolves around a shared belief system, usually led by a powerful and charismatic leader who demands absolute loyalty from their followers. However, not every close-knit or unconventional group is a cult. What makes a cult truly problematic are a few specific characteristics: authoritarian leadership, exploitation of members, and isolation from the outside world. First, let's look at authoritarian leadership. In a cult, the leader is often seen as a supreme authority, someone whose words are taken as the ultimate truth. Followers are expected to obey without question, and any form of dissent or disagreement is usually not tolerated. This kind of leadership doesn't allow for personal freedom or independent thought. Everything revolves around the leader's vision, and members are often made to feel that their worth is tied to their loyalty and obedience. Think of infamous cults like Jim Jones's People's Temple or Charles Manson's family. In these groups, the leaders held an extraordinary level of control over their followers, leading them to commit actions that many would never have considered on their own. Exploitation is another hallmark of cults. This can take many forms. Financial exploitation, where members are pressured to give up their savings or property. Emotional exploitation, where the leader manipulates members' feelings to keep them compliant. Or even physical exploitation, where members are subjected to abuse or dangerous tasks. The key here is that the leader or the organization takes advantage of the members for its own gain, often leaving them worse off than when they joined. In the case of the Nixium cult, for example, members were manipulated into doing things against their will, believing it was for a greater purpose. This kind of exploitation creates a harmful environment where people are used as tools rather than treated as individuals with their own rights and needs. Isolation from the outside world is another common tactic used by cults. By cutting off members from their families, friends, or even the broader society, cult leaders can more easily control what information they receive and keep them dependent on the group. This isolation often leads to an us versus them mentality, where members are taught to distrust outsiders and only rely on the group for support and validation. Over time, this can make it very difficult for members to leave the group, even if they start to have doubts. The Branch Davidians, led by David Koresh, are a tragic example of this. This group isolated themselves in a compound, leading to a standoff with the government that ended in disaster. Understanding what makes a cult is important because it helps us recognize when something might be dangerous or unhealthy. While not every group with a strong leader or unconventional beliefs is a cult, these characteristics, authoritarian leadership, exploitation, and isolation, are red flags that something might be wrong. By learning about the warning signs in the history of notorious cults, we can protect ourselves and others from falling into situations where our freedom and well-being are at risk. It's about being aware, staying informed, and always remembering that true spirituality or community doesn't come at the cost of your personal autonomy or safety. Wicca, a modern pagan spiritual movement, has roots that trace back to the mid-20th century, yet its practices and beliefs are deeply influenced by ancient traditions. To understand Wicca's history, we have to start with one man, Gerald Gardner. Often called the father of Wicca, Gardner was an Englishman who played a pivotal role in bringing this spiritual path to light. But while Gardner introduced Wicca to the world, the ideas and practices he shared were inspired by much older, pre-Christian pagan traditions as well as the modern spiritual movements of his time. Joe Gardner was an eclectic character, to say the least. Born in 1884, he spent much of his life traveling, studying various cultures, and immersing himself in the study of folklore and the occult. In the 1940s, after returning to England, Gardner was initiated into a secret witchcraft coven in the New Forest, which formed the basis of what would later be called Wicca. Gardner combined what he learned from this alleged coven with his own research and experiences, drawing upon ancient pagan practices, ceremonial magic, and even a bit of Victorian-era occultism. In 1954, he published Witchcraft Today, a book that introduced the world to the concept of Wicca as a modern religious movement. Gardner's work laid the foundation for what Wicca would become, influencing generations of practitioners. But Gardner didn't pull his ideas out of thin air. The practices and beliefs of Wicca are deeply influenced by pre-Christian pagan traditions, especially those of Europe. Ancient pagans worshipped multiple deities, honored the cycles of nature, and held rituals to mark the changing seasons, practices that Wicca has embraced and adapted. The idea of worshipping both a god and a goddess, for example, reflects the ancient balance between male and female deities, which was central to many pre-Christian religions. Wicca's celebration of the Wheel of the Year, with its Sabbats like Samhain and Beltane, is another direct link to these old traditions, honoring the natural rhythms that our ancestors relied on for survival. In addition to ancient paganism, Wicca was also shaped by the modern spiritual movements of the early 20th century. During this time, there was a growing interest in the occult, with movements like Theosophy and the revival of ceremonial magic gaining popularity. Gardner was influenced by these trends, incorporating elements such as the use of rituals, sacred symbols, and the idea of hidden or esoteric knowledge into Wicca. The emphasis on personal spiritual experience rather than dogma also reflects the broader spiritual climate of the time, which encouraged exploration and individualism. Wicca's history is a blend of the old and the new, merging the wisdom of ancient pagan practices with the spiritual curiosity of the modern world. It's a path that honors the past while being very much alive and evolving in the present. Today, Wicca continues to grow and adapt, with practitioners around the world finding meaning in its teachings and rituals. Whether you're drawn to Wicca for its reverence of nature, its balanced view of the divine, or its amazing history, it remains a path that connects us to both our ancestors and the earth beneath our feet. Wicca at its heart is a spiritual path that emphasizes living in harmony with nature and finding a personal connection with the divine. It's a way of life that encourages reverence for the natural world, respect for all living beings, and a deep sense of responsibility for our actions. Central to Wicca are its core beliefs and practices, which include the reverence for nature, the worship of the god and goddess, the guiding principle known as the Wiccan Rede, and the celebration of rituals like Sabbats and Esbats. These elements work together to create a spiritual framework that is both meaningful and deeply personal. One of the most beautiful aspects of Wicca is its deep respect for nature. Wiccans see the natural world as sacred, with every tree, rock, river, and creature holding its own form of divinity. This reverence extends to the god and goddess, who are often seen as embodiments of the natural forces that sustain life. The god is typically associated with the sun, the wild, and the hunt, while the goddess is linked to the moon, the earth, and fertility. Together, they represent the balance and harmony found in nature. Wiccans honor this balance through their rituals and daily practices, always mindful of their impact on the environment and striving to live in a way that is respectful and sustainable. A key ethical guideline in Wicca is the Wiccan Rede, which states, "And it harm none, do what ye will." This simple yet profound statement serves as a moral compass for Wiccans, emphasizing the importance of personal responsibility and the need to consider the consequences of one's actions. The Rede encourages freedom of choice, but it also reminds practitioners that with freedom comes the responsibility to avoid causing harm to others, whether through words, actions, or even intentions. This principle of non-harm is central to Wiccan ethics and influences how Wiccans interact with the world around them. Rituals play a significant role in Wiccan practice, serving as a way to connect with the divine, celebrate the cycles of nature, and mark important moments in life. Sabbats are the 8 seasonal festivals that make up the Wheel of the Year, each responding to a significant point in the agricultural and solar cycles. For example, Samhain, celebrated at the end of October, honors the final harvest and is a time to remember the dead, while Beltane, celebrated in May, is a joyful festival of fertility and the blossoming of life. Esbats, on the other hand, are rituals held during the full moons and are times for reflection, spell work, and communion with the goddess. These rituals help Wiccans stay attuned to the rhythms of the earth and the cosmos, providing a sense of continuity and connection. Another core belief in Wicca is the emphasis on personal spiritual development and free will. Unlike some religions that have a fixed set of doctrines, Wicca is very much about individual exploration and growth. Wiccans are encouraged to seek their own understanding of the divine, to experiment with different practices, and to develop their own spiritual path. This freedom allows for a great deal of creativity and personal expression within the Wiccan tradition. Whether through meditation, divination, or working with herbs and crystals, Wiccans are constantly learning and evolving on their spiritual journey. Wicca is a spiritual path that celebrates the sacredness of nature, the balance of the divine, feminine, and masculine, and the importance of living ethically and responsibly. Its rituals and beliefs provide a framework for spiritual growth, while its emphasis on personal freedom allows each practitioner to find their own way. For those who feel a deep connection to the natural world and a desire to explore their spirituality in a way that is both respectful and empowering, Wicca offers a path that is as fulfilling as it is enriching. Wicca is a unique spiritual path that stands out for its decentralized structure, meaning there's no central authority or rigid dogma that everyone has to follow. Instead, Wicca is a diverse and flexible tradition that allows individuals to explore their spirituality in a way that resonates with them personally. This lack of a central governing body means that Wicca can be practiced in a variety of ways, reflecting the different needs, beliefs, and preferences of its practitioners. Whether you're drawn to a more traditional approach or prefer to create your own blend of practices, Wicca offers a welcoming and open space for exploration. One of the most interesting aspects of Wicca is the variety of traditions within it. While all Wiccans share a common reverence for nature and the divine, how they practice can differ significantly. Gardnerian Wicca, for example, is one of the earliest and most structured forms, named after Gerald Gardner, who's often credited with founding modern Wicca in the 1950s, as I mentioned earlier. Gardnerian Wicca tends to follow specific rituals and coven structures, and it's known for its emphasis on lineage and initiatory practices. Alexandrian Wicca, founded by Alex Sanders in the 1960s, is similar but incorporates more ceremonial magic and is generally a bit more eclectic in its influences. On the other hand, eclectic Wicca is a more flexible and individualized tradition. Practitioners of eclectic Wicca draw from various sources, picking and choosing what resonates most with them from different Wiccan traditions, other pagan paths, and even non-pagan spiritual practices. This allows for a highly personalized form of spirituality, where each practitioner can create rituals, beliefs, and practices that feel authentic to them. The beauty of Wicca's varied traditions is that there's no one right way to practice. Instead, it's about finding what works best for you and your spiritual journey. Another key feature of Wicca's structure is its open and accessible nature. Unlike some religions that require formal conversion or initiation, Wicca is open to anyone who feels drawn to its teachings. You don't need to be born into a Wiccan family or go through a long, complicated process to start practicing. Many Many people begin their Wiccan journey by reading books, joining online communities, or attending local events. If someone feels a deep connection to the practices and beliefs of Wicca, they can start exploring and incorporating these into their life at their own pace. The openness extends to how Wiccans practice, whether they choose to join a coven, a small group of like-minded individuals who practice together, or work as a solitary practitioner exploring the path on their own. Both approaches are equally valid, and Wicca's decentralized nature means there's plenty of room for personal choice. Whether you're looking for a close-knit spiritual community or prefer to walk your path solo, Wicca's structure supports your journey. In essence, Wicca's structure is defined by its flexibility, inclusivity, and respect for individual choice. Without a central authority or dogma, Wiccans are free to explore their spirituality in a way that feels right to them, drawing from a rich plethora of traditions or crafting their own unique path. This decentralized and open approach makes Wicca a welcoming and adaptable spiritual tradition that can meet the needs of a wide range of practitioners, from the deeply traditional to the highly eclectic. One of the most refreshing aspects of Wicca is its approach to leadership and authority, which is quite different from many other religious traditions. In Wicca, there isn't a single central figure who dictates how things should be done, what to believe, or how to practice. Instead, Wicca is a decentralized and highly flexible spiritual path where each practitioner or group has the freedom to explore their spirituality in their own way. This lack of a central authoritarian leader is part of what makes Wicca so appealing to those who value personal freedom and autonomy in their spiritual journey. In Wicca, there's no pope, bishop, or other high-ranking authority figure that everyone must follow. Instead, leadership tends to be more local and often shared among the members of a coven or group. In some Wiccan traditions, like Gardnerian or Alexandrian, there might be a high priest or high priestess who leads rituals and guides the group. But even then, their role is more about facilitating and mentoring rather than commanding. These leaders are respected for their experience and knowledge, but they don't hold absolute power, and their authority is often balanced by the input and consensus of the group. This approach allows for a more egalitarian and inclusive practice, where everyone's voice can be heard and decisions are made collectively. Another key aspect of Wicca's leadership structure is the emphasis on personal responsibility and the freedom to practice in whatever way feels right for the individual. Wicca encourages a diversity of thought, recognizing that spirituality is a deeply personal experience that can vary greatly from one person to another. Some Wiccans choose to join covens and practice in groups, finding community and shared ritual to be a powerful way to connect with the divine. Others prefer to walk a solitary path, crafting their own rituals, meditations, and practices that resonate with their unique spiritual needs. Both approaches are equally valid in Wicca, and there's no pressure to conform to a single way of doing things. This freedom to practice as one sees fit extends to beliefs as well. While Wiccans share some common principles, such as reverence for nature and the Wiccan Rede, and it harm none, do what ye will, there's a lot of room for personal interpretation and exploration. Some Wiccans might focus heavily on the god and goddess, while others might work more with specific deities, ancestors, or elemental forces. Some may incorporate elements of other spiritual traditions like shamanism, Buddhism, or even Christianity into their practice. This diversity of thought is celebrated in Wicca, as it allows each practitioner to build a spiritual path that is deeply meaningful and authentic to them. Wicca's approach to leadership and authority is about empowering individuals rather than controlling them. Without a central authoritarian figure, Wiccans are free to explore their spirituality in a way that feels right to them, whether that means joining a group or practicing on their own. This lack of rigid hierarchy fosters a spirit of inclusivity, creativity, and personal responsibility, making Wicca a truly adaptable and personal spiritual path. It's a tradition that values the individual's journey and respects the many different ways one can connect with the divine. One of the most important aspects of Wicca is its strong ethical foundation, which sets it apart from more harmful or manipulative groups. Central to this foundation is the Wiccan Rede, a simple yet powerful guiding principle that, as I already said before, and it harm none, do what ye will. This phrase emphasizes the importance of non-harm, encouraging Wiccans to live their lives in a way that respects others and the world around them. In Wicca, the focus is on personal responsibility, kindness, and the understanding that our actions have consequences. This ethical framework helps ensure that Wicca is a positive and supportive path, one that stands in stark contrast to cults, which often exploit their members in various ways. In many cults, members are subjected to exploitation exploitation, whether financially, emotionally, or physically. Cult leaders often demand large sums of money, either through tithings, donations, or coerced gifts, draining the followers' resources for the leader's personal gain. Emotionally, cults can be manipulative, using fear, guilt, or shame to control their members and keep them dependent on the group. This manipulation can create an environment where members feel trapped, unable to leave, or even question what's happening around them. In some extreme cases, physical exploitation occurs, where members are subject to abuse or dangerous practices under the guise of spiritual or communal duty. Wicca, however, is fundamentally different in its approach to its members. The Wiccan Read's emphasis on non-harm is not just about avoiding physical harm, it extends to emotional and spiritual well-being as well. Wiccans are encouraged to make choices that are positive and constructive, both for themselves and for others. This means that any form of exploitation, whether financial, emotional, or physical, goes against the core principles of Wicca. There's no place in Wicca for leaders who manipulate or take advantage of their followers. Instead, Wiccan communities are often built on mutual respect, trust, and the shared goal of spiritual growth. Financially, Wicca does not demand anything from its practitioners beyond what they are willing and able to give. While some Wiccans might choose to donate to a coven or contribute to communal resources, there's no requirement or pressure to do so. In fact, in Gardnerian practice, it is completely forbidden to accept money or payment for teachings. The idea is that each person's contributions, whether time, energy, or resources, should be freely given without coercion or expectation. This approach fosters a sense of equality and mutual support rather than exploitation. Emotionally, Wicca values individual autonomy and personal responsibility. Rather than using fear or guilt to control members, Wiccan leaders and groups encourage personal empowerment and self-discovery. Everyone is free to explore their path at their own pace, ask questions, and make their own decisions. This openness and respect for individual choices create a nurturing environment where people can grow and learn without the fear of judgment or manipulation. Wicca's ethical foundation, centered around the Wiccan Rede, promotes a path of non-harm and personal responsibility. This sets Wicca apart from cults, which often exploit their members in harmful ways. Wicca encourages a supportive, respectful community where individuals are free to explore their spirituality without fear of exploitation. By adhering to these principles, Wicca offers a safe and empowering spiritual path, one that respects the well-being of all its practitioners. Wicca encourages personal study and interaction with a broader spiritual community, rather than isolating its practitioners. Unlike cults that try to cut off their members from the outside world, Wicca embraces the idea of learning from a wide range of sources and engaging with others, both within and outside of the Wiccan community. This openness allows Wiccans to grow spiritually while still being connected to the world around them, living regular lives that often blend seamlessly with mainstream society. In Wicca, personal study is highly valued. Wiccans are encouraged to explore their spirituality on their own terms, delving into subjects like mythology, herbalism, meditation, and more. This self-directed learning is a key part of the Wiccan path, as it allows individuals to tailor their spiritual practices to their own interests and needs. There's no central authority dictating what you must believe or study, so Wiccans have the freedom to seek knowledge from various sources, including books, online communities, and even other spiritual traditions. This open-minded approach fosters a love of learning and a deep personal connection to one's spirituality. But Wicca doesn't stop at individual study. It also encourages interaction with a broader spiritual community. Whether through joining a coven, attending public rituals, or participating in online forums, Wiccans have many opportunities to connect with others who share their interest. These interactions allow for the exchange of ideas, support, and friendship, creating a sense of belonging without the need for isolation. Wiccans learn from each other, share their experiences, and grow together as a community, all while maintaining their personal autonomy. Another important aspect of Wicca is that its practitioners often live regular lives, blending in with mainstream society. Wiccans are your neighbors, co-workers, friends and family members, people you might see at the grocery store, the office, or your child's school. While they may practice their spirituality privately or with a close-knit group, Wiccans are not required to separate themselves from the rest of the world like in many cults. In fact, many Wiccans find that their spiritual beliefs enhance their everyday lives, helping them to live more mindfully and compassionately in their interactions with others. This ability to blend in with mainstream society is a testament to the adaptability and inclusivity of Wicca. There's no pressure to conform to a particular lifestyle or appearance, and Wiccans are free to express their spirituality in whatever way feels right to them. Some might wear pentacles or other symbols of their faith, while others might choose to keep their spiritual practices private. Either way, Wiccans are fully integrated into the broader society, contributing to their communities and living fulfilling lives. Wicca's approach to spirituality is one of openness and inclusion. It encourages personal study and interaction with a broader spiritual community, allowing practitioners to grow and learn in a supportive environment. Wiccans live regular lives, often blending in with mainstream society, and their spirituality enriches their daily experiences rather than isolating them from the world. This balance between personal exploration and community connection makes Wicca a unique and accessible spiritual path for those who seek a deeper connection with the divine without losing touch with the world around them. Wicca as a spiritual path offers a unique blend of openness and secrecy, depending on the tradition or personal preference of the practitioner. For some, secrecy plays an essential role, especially in what are known as oath-bound traditions, where certain teachings and practices are kept private. On the other hand, many Wiccan paths embrace a more open approach, where knowledge and practices are shared freely with anyone interested. Understanding the balance between these two approaches can help clarify why some Wiccans keep certain things under wraps while others are more open about their beliefs and practices. In certain Wiccan traditions, secrecy is a fundamental aspect. They are often referred to as oath-bound traditions, where members take sacred oaths to keep specific rituals, teachings, and knowledge private. This secrecy is not about exclusion or elitism. Rather, it's a way to preserve the integrity and sanctity of the spiritual practices. In these traditions, the knowledge is often passed down through initiation, where the initiate makes a solemn promise to keep what they learn within the coven or group. The idea is that some spiritual truths are best revealed gradually and are more powerful when kept within a trusted circle. This approach allows members to build deep personal connections with the divine and each other, knowing that the sacred knowledge that they share is treated with the utmost respect. For example, in Gardnerian and Alexandrian Wicca, two of the most well-known traditions, initiates are bound by oaths to keep certain rituals and teachings secret. These secrets are considered a gift from the divine, something to be cherished and protected. The act of keeping these secrets also fosters a sense of unity and trust among coven members, creating a close-knit spiritual community. It's not about hiding anything from the outside world. Rather, it's about maintaining a space where spiritual work can be done with focus, intention, and a deep sense of reverence. On the other hand, many Wiccan paths are much more open about their practices and beliefs. In these more eclectic or solitary paths, Wiccans often share their knowledge freely with others, whether through books, online forums, or public rituals. These practitioners believe that the more people who have access to Wiccan teachings, the better. Openness allows for greater understanding and an acceptance of Wicca as a legitimate spiritual path. It also enables people from all walks of life to explore Wicca and see if it resonates with them, without the need for secrecy or initiation. This openness has played a significant role in the spread of Wicca around the world. Authors like Scott Cunningham, Raymond Buckland, and Doreen Valiente have written extensively about Wiccan practices, making the information accessible to anyone interested in learning more. This has led to a broader understanding and acceptance of Wicca, helping to dispel misconceptions and allowing Wiccans to connect with a global community of like-minded individuals. The balance between secrecy and openness in Wicca reflects the diversity of the path itself. Some Wiccans find great meaning in their secrecy of their traditions, seeing it as a way to protect and honor their spiritual work. Others prefer to share their practices openly, believing that spirituality is something to be shared and celebrated with as many people as possible. Both approaches are valid and offer different ways to connect with the divine and with the community. The word occult often stirs up a mix of reactions, ranging from curiosity to fear. For many, the term is shrouded in mystery, often carrying negative connotations due to its portrayal in media and popular culture. However, the true meaning of occult is far less ominous than it might seem. The word occult simply means hidden or secret knowledge, specifically knowledge that is not readily accessible or understood by the general public. In the context of spirituality and mysticism, the occult refers to practices and beliefs that explore the deeper, often unseen aspects of reality. Unfortunately, this neutral meaning is frequently overshadowed by misconceptions that equate the occult with something dangerous and malevolent. At its core, the occult is about exploring the mysteries of life in the universe. This can include anything from studying ancient texts, working with symbols and rituals, to understanding the energies and forces that are believed to shape our world. For many, the occult is a path of personal discovery, offering tools and knowledge that help them connect with the divine, understand their own inner workings, and interact with the world in a more meaningful way. Wicca, like many other spiritual paths, incorporates some aspects of the occult, such as working with the elements, performing rituals, or using divination tools like tarot cards. These practices are not inherently good or bad. They're simply methods for exploring and understanding the hidden layers of existence. However, the term occult has often been misunderstood and misrepresented, leading to the belief that anything associated with it is dangerous or evil. This misunderstanding largely stems from fear of the unknown and from sensationalized depictions of occult practices in movies, television shows, and books. When people hear occult, they might immediately think of dark magic, secret societies, or forbidden rituals. I've even done videos where on Wicca and on Witchcraft, like I'm doing now, and used the word occult and have been hit up in comments saying, I really wish you wouldn't use the word occult. You know, it's so negative. And it's not. So hopefully these same people that feel that way watch this video and realize what occult really is. Not a cult. Occult. Anyway. But in reality, the occult is simply a collection of knowledge and practices that have been kept out of mainstream awareness, not because they are evil, but because they require a certain level of dedication, understanding, and respect to practice properly. It's important to distinguish between being an occult practitioner and being involved in a cult, as these are two very different things. An occult practitioner is someone who studies and engages with hidden or esoteric knowledge as part of their spiritual practice. This could be, again, a Wiccan, a tarot reader, an astrologer, or someone who practices meditation or energy work. The key point is that an occult practitioner is usually seeking personal growth, spiritual connection, or a deeper understanding of the world. They are free to explore and choose their own path, guided by their own intuition, ethics, and understanding. In contrast, a cult is a group or organization that often revolves around a single authoritarian leader who demands absolute loyalty and control over the members. Cults typically exploit their members, whether financially, emotionally, or physically, and they often isolate them from the outside world to maintain control. The practices and beliefs of a cult are not about personal exploration or spiritual growth, but are designed to manipulate and dominate the members. The term cult carries a much more negative connotation than occult, and rightly so, as cults are harmful and coercive by nature. By understanding the true meaning of occult, we can see it that it is not something to be feared, but rather respected as a path of personal discovery. Occult practices, including those found in Wicca, offer a way to explore the hidden aspects of life and connect with the deeper mysteries of the universe. They're about empowerment, knowledge, and spiritual growth, not about manipulation or control. When we differentiate between the occult and cults, we can better appreciate the value of occult practices and the positive role they can play in a person's spiritual journey. So, what have we learned? Wicca is not a cult, despite some misconceptions that might suggest otherwise. At its core, Wicca is a decentralized and open spiritual path that encourages personal freedom, exploration, and connection with nature. Unlike cults, which are often characterized by authoritarian leadership, exploitation of members, and isolation from the outside world, Wicca emphasizes personal responsibility, ethical living, and the importance of non-harm. There is no central figure in Wicca who dictates what followers must believe or do. Instead, Wiccans are free to explore their spirituality in a way that resonates with them, whether through solitary practice or within a coven, etc., etc. This autonomy and diversity of thought are hallmarks of Wicca, making it a path that values individual growth and mutual respect rather than control and manipulation. Additionally, Wicca's ethical foundation, particularly the Wiccan Rede, promotes a way of life that is centered on doing no harm to others, which stands in stark contrast to the exploitive practices often seen in cults. Wicca encourages practitioners to live in harmony with nature and to make positive choices that benefit both themselves and the world around them. Wiccans are integrated members of society, living regular lives and contributing to their communities without the need for secrecy or isolation. This openness, coupled with a focus on personal empowerment and ethical living, underscores underscores that Wicca is not a cult, but rather a spiritual tradition that fosters respect, understanding, and a deep connection to the natural world. As we come to the end of our exploration into Wicca and its many facets, it's important to reflect on the value of informed understanding and the need to dispel myths. In a world where misinformation can spread like wildfire, it's all too easy for misunderstandings to take root and shape our perceptions of things we don't fully understand. This is especially true for spiritual paths like Wicca, which are often subject to stereotypes and misconceptions. By taking the time to learn about Wicca with an open mind, we can move beyond the myths and discover a rich, meaningful tradition that emphasizes harmony, respect, and personal growth. Informed understanding is the key to breaking down the barriers of fear and prejudice that can surround Wicca and other lesser-known spiritual paths. When we educate ourselves and others about what Wicca truly is, its reverence for nature, its ethical guidelines, and its emphasis on personal freedom, we help to create a more accepting and inclusive society. Understanding the reality of Wicca allows us to appreciate its beauty and depth, and it helps to counteract the negative portrayals that often dominate media and popular culture. Knowledge empowers us to make better decisions, build stronger communities, and foster respect for diverse spiritual paths that people choose to follow. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode of Witch in the Working. I hope this video cleared up some possible misunderstandings. Have you had any experiences with cults or cult-like groups? Do you know anyone who has? Let us all know down in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and please subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to ring that little bell to be reminded of wonderful and exciting future episodes to come. Love you guys and gals. Blessed be.